Now let's look at midpoint and gradient of a line. So first, we're going to see how to locate points on the XY coordinate system. So every point on this XY coordinate system can be denoted or generally denoted as x, y. So x, y gives us the position of a point in the XY plane. So let's see how this works. So first, let's identify point A, which coordinate is given as 2, 3. So what we do is that we just write a small x in the first coordinate given here, which is x, and a y in the second value given. So the value of x is 2 and y, the value of y is 3. So what do? We go to our xy plane and we try to trace it out. So we have x value is 2, so that lies here. So we draw a vertical line onto like this, and we say what? The y value is 3, so we look for 3 and we draw an horizontal line So the point of intersection, as you can see, this point over here is point 2, 3, and that place is given as point A. Now let's try to identify point B. Point B, we are told that the value of x is minus 3 and the value of y is 1. So we look for the value of x as minus 3. So this is the x coordinate here, and my minus 3 lies here. So I'll draw a vertical line passing through minus 3. And I'm told that the value of y is 1. So I'll look for the value of 1 at y, and that lies here. Then I'll draw a horizontal line passing through 1. Now the point of intersection, which is this point over here, is point of coordinate minus 3, 1. And this point is what? Point B. And finally, for point C, we are told that the value of x is minus 1.5 and the value of y is minus 2.5. So look for minus 1.5 in x. So minus 1.5 lies between minus 1 and minus 2. So minus 1.5 lies somewhere here. So I'll draw a vertical line passing through minus 1.5. And I'm told that my y value is minus 2.5. So minus 2.5 lies between minus 2 and minus 3. So that lies somewhere here. So I draw a horizontal line. So the point of intersection, which is this point, is the point of coordinate minus 1.5, minus 2.5. So this point here indicates point C. So how do we calculate the midpoint of a line? So when I say midpoint of a line, what I mean by that is, imagine I draw a line AB and I say midpoint. What I'm trying to find out is at what point, or what is the coordinate of the center of the line. So that is what we really mean by saying what is the midpoint of the line. So for instance, let's consider a line A now, which is 1 and minus 6 at point A. So let's identify that point. My x value is 1 and my y value is minus 6. So I look for my x value, which is 1, which is over here, and my y value is what? Minus 6. So I chase my 1 down and my minus 6 is over here. So I cut that point. So that point of intersection is my point A. Now my point B is at x value of minus 3 and y value of 8. So I have my x value of minus 3, which is here, and my y, so I chase it up, and my y value is what? 8. So I bring it over here. So this is the point of intersection. So this point over here is my point B. So now I'm trying to identify the line in which these 2 points pass. So what do I have to do? I just need to join these 2 lines together, and when I join that together, I'm going to have a straight line as shown. Now if you look at this line carefully, you see that the midway between point A and point B is at this point over here. And at this point over here, what is the coordinate of my x? My x value is what? Minus 1. And what is my y value? My y value is what? Here, which is 1. So the coordinates at this point is minus 1, 1. So how do we find this with the use of the formula? So in general, if you have a line and we know the coordinate or the coordinates of 2 points in the line, this point over here, so let me call this point A and this point over here B, then we can calculate the midpoint of that line. And the way we do it is that we sum the coordinates of the x and of the x axis in both point A and point B, and we divide it by 2. So that becomes the midpoint for the x axis. And for the y axis, I sum the y coordinates in both A and B and I divide by 2 to give me the coordinates for the y axis. So let's do that with the previous example where I had point A and point B. So the first thing you want to do is that you want to label this coordinate. So the thing you do is that you just put here as what, x1, and you label here as y1, and you label the second coordinate as x2 and here and y2. The order does not really matter, and what I mean by that is that you can decide to call here x2, y2, and you can decide to call this x1 and y1. It does not really matter, and you will get the same result. So we apply the formula. So the formula for the midpoint is given as x1 plus x2 over 2 comma y1 plus y2 over 2. So what does it become? My x1 in this case is what, 1 plus, and what is my x2 minus 3, then over 2, then comma my y1 in this case is what, minus 6 plus, and my y2 is 8, then over 2. So what does that become? So that become plus times minus is minus 1 minus 3 over 2 comma minus 6 plus 8 gives me 2 over 2, and that becomes what, minus 2 over 2 comma 1, and that becomes minus 2 divided by 2 is minus 1 comma 1. So the value of x at the midpoint is minus 1, and the value of y at the midpoint is 1. So let's look at another example. So here we are told to find the midpoint between line C and D, and we're given the coordinates of point C and point D. So what we do, we label here as x1 and here as y1, and we label here as x2 and y2. So the formula for the midpoint says that x1 plus x2 over 2 comma y1 plus y2 over 2. And what does that become? That becomes my x1 in this case is 7, and my x2 is minus 3, then over 2, then comma my y1 here is 3, and my y2 here is 5 over 2, and that becomes plus times minus is minus. So 7 minus 3 is 4, it becomes 4 over 2 comma, and 5 plus 3 is 8 over 2, and what does that become? 4 divided by 2 is 2 comma, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So the coordinates at the midpoint is x value of 2 and y value of 4. So now let's talk about the slope or gradient of a line. So the slope is also referred to as the gradient. So let's imagine I have a line AB, and I pick any 2 points on the line A and B, and the coordinates of point A is given as x1, y1, and the coordinates of point B is given as x2, y2. Then the gradient is given as the change in my y-axis over the change in my x-axis. Now, how did I calculate the change in my y-axis? At the value of B now, the value of y is what? Is y2. Then at the value of, at this point over here, the value of y is equals to what? Y1. So my change in y is going to be given as what? Y2 minus y1. At this point over here, the value of x is x2, and at this point over here, the value of x is x1. So my change in my vertical axis is going to be what? X2 minus x1. So my change in my vertical axis is going to be y2 minus y1 over the change in my horizontal axis, which is going to be what? X2 minus x1. And now if I look at this triangle now, this is a what? Right angle triangle. We have a right angle triangle of this sort, as you can see. And if I call this angle over here theta, and here is what? My change in y, which is y2 minus y1, and my change in x is x2 minus x1. So I said my slope is equals to my change in y over my change in x. So what can I say about tan theta? If you remember, tan theta is equals to opposite over adjacent, and opposite in this case is going to be this coordinate here, which is what? Y2 minus y1, and my adjacent in this case is equals to what? X2 minus x1. So if you are given the angle that a line makes with respect to the x-axis, like the angle here theta, or the angle here is same thing theta, you are given the angle that a line makes with the x-axis. The slope can also be found by finding the tangent of that angle, and when you find the tangent of that angle, the result you get is equal to the slope. So let's try to look through some examples. So here, in the first example, we are told to consider a line A and B. Consider a line given by the point A and point B. Find the gradient of the line. So what it means that on the xy plane you have a line and you are given 2 points. You are given point A and you are told that the coordinates there are 1 and 5, and you are given point B and and I told that the coordinates there are minus 3 and 8. Now I told to find the gradient of this line. Now the gradient or the slope of this line m is given as what? Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you have to label your coordinates. So here becomes what? X1 y1, and here becomes x2 y2. Again, the order does not matter. So anyone you can choose to label here x2 y2 and here x1 y1, and anything you do, you are going to get the same result. So I'm going to do it both ways to prove that point. So let's assume we label it this way. So what would our slope be? Our slope will be, in this case, my y2 value is 8 and my y1 value is 5, and my x2 value is minus 3 and my x1 value is minus 1. So I have minus 1. So that becomes what? 8 minus 5 is 3 over minus 4, and that becomes minus 3 over 4. But on the other hand, now let's assume that I labeled this coordinate here as x2 and y2, and I labeled this coordinate here as x1 and y1. So what will my slope be? My slope in this case will be, my y2 in this case will be what? 5 minus my y1 in this case will be 8 over my x2 in this case will be 1, and my x1 in this case will be what? Minus 3. So I know that 5 minus 8 gives me minus 3, and minus times minus is plus. So 1 plus 3 gives me 4, and that still gives me what? Minus 3 over 4. So the way you label the coordinates does not matter. What really matters is if you choose this point to be x1, then here 2 must definitely be y1, and if you make here x or x2, here must be y2. So the number in the base must be the same, but which one you choose to be 1 or 2 does not really matter, as you get the same result. Now let's look at the last example under gradient. So we are told that a straight line makes an angle of 60 degrees with the x-axis. So let's assume now you have your xy plane over here, and you have a straight line, and now we are told that the straight line makes an angle of 60 degrees. So now we are now told to find the slope of the line. So if you remember, our slope of the line m is also given as what? Tan theta, if you are given the angle that it makes with the x-axis. So my slope in this case will just be equal to what? Tan 60, and the value of tan 60 is root 3, or if you want to write it out in decimal, you can write it out as 1.732. So the slope of this line is root 3 or 1.732. So that pretty much sums up the procedure of finding the midpoint of a line and the procedure of finding the gradient of a line.